I think we talked about this story a week or so ago, and I remember we had Heidi Yetman on at the time. We were talking about school having started and perhaps not as many teachers as had to be there being there. Well, here we are a week, maybe 2 weeks later, and the issue about right teachers, when I say right, I mean specific teachers, in this case for special needs kids, are still not there. And in fact, it's a much more serious problem only because you have to recruit people to be with these kids who are not qualified to deal with special needs kids, which I imagine sets up an even more dangerous precedent. Heidi Yetman is president of the Quebec Provincial Association of Teachers. Heidi, this is getting to be a regular thing.
Well, there's these letter of tolerances that are basically permissions that are granted by the ministry to authorize a school board to hire somebody without a teacher license. And we are seeing these letters of tolerance increasing year after year after year. The latest numbers that I have are from 2020, 2021, so that's 2 years ago, about 3,700 letters of tolerance. And that number just seems to increase. So 2 years before that, it was a lot less. So it's increasing and increasing. Like I said, I don't have the numbers for this year, but it's not a surprise. There are really a big lack of teachers in this province, and I would say a lack of teachers across Canada even.
But I wonder, I brought up the issue of special needs kids, and I know we will hear from listeners sometimes about how difficult it is in and of itself, of course, for them. Then to find out, they basically have to call in reinforcements, if you will, to be able to have these kids with someone in a school. I mean, do you ever remember it being this bad?
Oh, no. It's just, like I said, it seems to be getting worse and worse. And of course, those unqualified teachers, not to say that we don't need them, we need them desperately, because otherwise we wouldn't have teachers in the rooms. They're being put everywhere. They're being put in at every level. So there are obviously going to be some that are thrown into a special needs class. Mm-hmm. And that's really difficult. It puts a lot of pressure on the school itself. Because they're going to need some extra help. Any unqualified teacher puts a lot of pressure on a school because teachers in that, that are teaching in place already are going to have to give them a hand. But we need them at the same time. And about 50% of them do have a degree in something, like a bachelor's of something. So it's not like they're completely... we do have some that are coming right out of high school, believe it or not. What I read for the numbers in 2021 was about 10 out of those 3,700 were from right out of high school.
High school.
So that's crazy in itself. I just can't imagine. So really difficult. And the only way to fix this really is to improve working conditions in schools and to value the teaching profession, because the more and more we have unqualified teachers in schools, the more we are deprofessionalizing the profession, and that's very dangerous.
I have so many questions, Heidi, but I think the one that's standing out to me most is, what is the real problem here? Is it too hard to become a teacher? Are we not recruiting enough teachers? What's really gone wrong here?
I think you just, kind of said two things that are definitely a yes. There are less and less people lining up at the universities to become a teacher. And when they do line up and get into teaching, 50% of them drop out. And I don't know why. That you have to ask some questions about that. Is it because they've gone into the schools and done some stage? I'm not sure. And the working conditions, we really need more resources for teachers. I don't know if you read the article about a teacher who had been teaching for 11 years and had a really difficult class, and she just decided, that's it, I'm leaving after 11 years because I don't have enough help. I've said this so many times, teachers' goal in life is to make sure their students succeed. They love being in the classroom with their students, but when they see that they can't do it alone, they can't get those students to succeed, it becomes really, really difficult. Sure. And I can understand why they kind of decide to leave the profession. And the big problem in Quebec is the three-tier system, right? You have private schools that are heavily subsidized, and they choose their students. And then you have schools that have particular projects, again, students that are chosen off the top, and then you have your regular schools. So those regular classrooms are now much more difficult than they were, let's say, 10, 15 years ago.
The other thing I think of is when I wonder what has changed, because teachers used to rule supreme. Like the parents would bow in respect to the teachers. When I was a kid, we were scared of we loved our teachers, but we were scared of them. And respect was first and foremost on all levels, from the kids to the parents. That's kind of gone out the window, has it not?
Yeah, well, I'm as a teacher of 23 years, I would say that most of the parents that I dealt with supported me. So that I wanted to make clear that there's still really great parents out there. But what has changed is, again, I'm going back to that 3-tier system. Now parents are choosing their school. It's like a market. It's like a comedy. Like they're going out and they're picking the school, just like buying a car. So when you choose a school, it's really a lot easier to say, hey, you're not doing enough. Why? I chose you. Why aren't you doing what I want? So there's this different mentality around school choice that I think is really dangerous. Competition and school choice, unfortunately, have created this. It's one of the big problems for me anyway.
I thought the answer to Natasha's question was all contained in your laugh when she said, teachers used to rule. They were and you actually laughed when she said that, because we know how much things have changed, where parents are the ones who pretty much call the shots. And I'm with her. When I was going to school, holy cow, if you got in trouble with the teacher and your parents went to a meeting with that teacher and found out you had done something, I mean, you were toast. You got it. And these days it seems to be the other way around. So I think your answer might have been in that little reaction with that laugh. Yeah, things are not the same anymore. But I want to ask you one other thing that struck me as well with the shortage issue. It's one thing to say we're dealing with a situation like this now, and maybe it was like this to some degree last year. But then I read the minister saying it's going to take a few more years to fix this shortage. That kind of surprised me. You think this could be handled quickly?
I would actually disagree with him and say it's going to take a lot more than a few more years.
Oh, no.
Unfortunately, if you look at the numbers, and there's been some research done on this, there's going to be a lot of retirements in the next 5 years or so, 5 or 6 years. And we're just not producing enough students coming out of university to replace those missing teachers. Again, the government has done a few things to try to push that forward. They're giving bursaries to students. They've put in a new 2-year qualifying master's degree. That's got a little bit of controversy because there is a committee that disagreed with that because, again, we're deprofessionalizing the profession. If you look at Finland, for example, you need a master's to be a teacher, and people line up to get into the teaching profession because it's so valued. It's valued just like, a lawyer or a doctor. Here, we don't have that value. So I think that's another big problem. People don't look at teaching as a profession almost, and they're looking at teachers as if, you guys can do it. It's not a big problem. Here's another big thing, curriculum. The government has been putting more and more curriculum on the plates of teachers. And so we've become almost like prescribed, here's what you have to teach. Fill the kids' brains with this. And we've lost our autonomy. So I think a lot of people that decide to go into teaching, they have this great grandeur idea that I'm going to be, I'm going to change the minds of the young. And then they're thrown the curriculum and said, oh my God, there's no way I can get through this curriculum. So there's a lot of things that need to be changed. It's a great discussion, though, and I think it's a societal discussion that we have to have about how you want education in this province to look like.
Well, and you need to pay them more. I mean, honestly, our Quebec teachers are the most poorly paid in the country. That has to change. I want to come back for a second, Heidi, just to this idea of being unqualified and the permission that's granted. So basically, they look at what qualifications they have and then decide what they need to allow or not allow. What's the process right now?
Yeah, so there's the school board, let's say, is going to hire somebody that maybe has a degree in math. They fill out a form, they send it to the ministry looks at it and decides whether or not they're going to grant this person based on their education, based on maybe their past experiences, whether or not they're going to grant this letter of tolerance. In the past, it was really difficult to get a letter of tolerance. Now they're super easy to come by because the government knows that there's a lack of teachers and they need to fill those classrooms. You can't have an empty classroom. So unfortunately, and by the way, there are some great unqualified teachers, people out there that are doing an excellent job. I don't want to put them down at all. But when you start saying anybody can do it, then we have a problem. And so that's what's happening right now.
Anybody can do it. So not true when you actually know what's going on in the system. So
all hail teachers.
Really, absolutely.
Well, I don't know if you heard. I think it was Radio Canada who did some interviews with unqualified teachers that were going in right before they went in. Like, oh yes, I'm ready to do this. I'm excited, and many of them have walked away because it's just not as easy as it looks for them anyway. I don't know why anybody would think teaching would be that easy. But it takes a certain personality for sure to walk into a classroom and to be in charge of those students and yet allow for joy and creativity and knowledge. And, there's this fine balance that you have to kind of play with.
We can only hope it gets better because I can't imagine it get a whole lot worse. Heidi, thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate it as always.
It's a pleasure. Thanks very much.
Take good care. Heidi Yetman, President of the Quebec Provincial Association of Teachers.